Hey guys, it's 7NINJA. We're gonna be doing something a little different today. I wasn't able to get my friend Bruce, my co-host, right, on today. He had a little thing. He had some things to do, so it's gonna be just me, which means it may be a little shorter, maybe a little longer. Um, so I can't really promise anything else on that. But uh, let's talk about what's been happening recently. So recently we got two different updates, 1.3 or 130, which gave us a bunch of bug fixes. I think it was like 1,000 bug fixes, which necessarily I can't say that me personally I felt the big change, and I'll say that because I'm playing on PS4 and I feel like PS4 had the best port out of all of them. But I've been hearing PC and all of them are like, oh man, this is a great change, and I'm just like, sure, I hope so, you know. Shoot, I'd hate to be those guys. All of the level resets and stuff, like, so I know it gets old. But like, yeah, I didn't really feel too much of a change from that. I can say there's been less crashes per se. Of course, there's still the one crash where it's like, it's kind of like when you put your PS4 into rest mode and then like you come back online. Well, it's as if, and the best way I can put it, like the logic I think it goes behind is you go in rest mode and then your internet cuts off. It's not necessarily off; it's just in standby. But according to the game, it's off. And so when you're going back on the game, although your PS4 may be back online, your game necessarily may not be back online. And so once you go on, it's still trying to work out how to come back online. Well, it comes back online, but it crashes after that because something in the game says, all right, it's already online, but I'm still trying to bring back the internet back to the game, even though it's already online. It's pretty much the best way I can put that. Which, I mean, it sounds weird, it really does. But that's really the only bug I've experienced that's been a great big problem. There's still the bug behind, enemies behind doors and stuff. Enemies not spawning in rooms just not working sometimes. It happens, but I mean, I'm here. I expect it at this point, right? Like, could be much worse. But honestly, though, I haven't really experienced many of the bugs that most players deal with, and I think it mostly has something to do with console. One of the number one things I always seen is just like any streamers on not console, but just PlayStation. I guess the console. But one of the number one things I've always seen is that PlayStation users, I don't think they have the same issues that PC and Xbox has. I think that's just purely the important reasons. But I can say I think Xbox is a lot better than PC when it comes to how the bugs are. I haven't experienced this having more than one Hulk or Thor or whoever in your party before. I haven't experienced that yet. I hear that's amazing. It makes runs a whole lot easier. They act like regular AI, which sounds really good, but it is what it is. Shoot, I'd love to have that to happen. But yeah. So before I go on to like 131, right? Actually, let me go on 131 and then I can talk about that. So 131, right? They did a couple buffs to characters again, made things a lot better. Let's start off with one. So Captain America now can break glass doors. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised he doesn't have to. Well, I actually haven't tried it, so I won't say that's not true. That's true or not. But I haven't tried the power attack glass door yet with Captain America. That being said, I know you can break it through with a ranged power attack, and it looks kind of cool when you're doing it that way. Which then brings another question: why can a Hulk not just throw a giant boulder at the glass door? Right? It's like, I get it. Like I'm nitpicking. I get that, but when you think about Captain America busting the glass door down with his shield and how convenient that is, bro. It's amazing. Like you don't think about it until it happens, and you're just like, wow, I could have been doing that this whole time. But at the end of the day, at least he can do it now, right? So there's that. I also remember Captain America. It looks like he's running faster now, but I would have to test that with somebody. And I still think though Black Widow sprint jumping will still beat that. I don't know how true that is, but look, if I can keep up to Iron Man on Black Widow when he's using Afterburner here and there, I know I'm passing Cap immediately. Like, there's no ifs about it, right? Because I've passed Iron Man's using it. I've kept up with them. And here's the thing. Number one thing that I don't know if shoot, what game did I play when it happened? There's a few games where like it's kind of like you jump and you still carry the momentum, but like you can turn in such a way that when you turn and you jump in that other direction, you still keep your speed, but it's as if you drifted like for a second and then you popped off in another direction. And it's like you're keeping your momentum. You can kind of tell it's happening whenever you turn midair with your character and like you just boost off in another direction. I would call it like point hopping or something, right? But that was something that I'm hoping that Captain America is gonna get is either got his sprint boost already from that 131 patch, or he's gonna get he's gonna get another buff. I'm still hearing people talk about Hulk needing to get a sprint buff. Don't get me wrong, it would be great if Hulk gets a sprint buff. It would, but my only problem with that is Hulk is, if we're talking comic books wise, I understand that. But if we're talking about game wise, it may not be the best idea. And I say that as matter of fact, here, all right. Let me throw a solution out there before I straight up just drag the thing down, right? What if they did it where Hulk can use his rage? His rage. No, I don't want to say that either, because necessarily he can't build up rage on his own like Hulk or Thor. Not Hulk or Thor, but Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America, right? He can't just build it up. But what if he had a way to just like, he could hold his like rage and he'd start moving faster? I mean, because necessarily you could tell Hulk can run faster than that when you use Stranglehold, right? But he would need some way to do it. That being said, all right, I don't really think that the best idea is to make Hulk faster. I think he's fast enough. Honestly, it's hard. I can keep up with him on Black Widow. Now, keep in mind, I'm basing all of my thoughts on Black Widow, as she is my main. I do have Hulk as my secondary character, but my main character would still be Black Widow. And she's going to be slower than the Hulk, and she's going to be slower than the Flyers. But I can keep up with Hulk, but Hulk will over time pass me, and he will over time start getting some distance on me, right? So it's like, I don't think Hulk needs a speed boost. I don't even think he needs to jump higher. I don't really think there's a point in jumping higher, honestly. Especially because Hulk can reach any area a Flyer can. There's no ifs about that. Yeah, I mean, if there's a chasm, right, you don't want to fall in the chasm. But, I mean, Hulk should... If you're a Hulk main, you don't really have a problem with that. Yeah, I mean, you want to feel more of super heroic, but, like, at the same time, you're jumping pretty high, especially comparatively to anyone that's smaller than you. Although, I will still say Kamala should be able to jump just like Hulk when you come to the fact that she has the ability to grow. And so why would she need to jump like Black Widow, right? That's weird. But, yeah. This is something that I don't really think needs changing. Especially like when you get inside of a hive room or something. Like, why would you want Hulk to jump higher inside of one of those locations? I think the charge bar idea, where he charges his jump, is an alright idea. But what I think, if anything, is that you should be able to gain speed while jumping forward. But even then, there's another problem, right? Like, I feel like that'll put people in bad situations. I'm sitting there, I'm practicing my bone shaker abilities. And what do I mean by that? So, when I use bone shaker, right, I want to like jump and angle myself in a way that whenever I pop it, he'll be slamming on the ground and moving at the same time. This will give me a way to, in itself, kind of dodge whatever they're throwing at me. Sure, I don't take damage, but it'll give me a way to dodge whatever they're throwing at me while I'm moving in a direction. And so, I kind of got it down to some degree, but it is what it is. But I think if I tried doing that with a faster Hulk, I'd have to change my whole game plan. Because although Hulk could run faster, I don't think gameplay-wise it would make sense for him to run faster. It's like, it's kind of hard to explain, but like, you would have to you got to think about it in terms like this. Necessarily, Iron Man should be able to fly into space like on his own. Same with Thor. They should just be able to fly into space on their own. Like they shouldn't struggle with that, right? Necessarily, Kamala should be running around in big form all the time, but she can't, right? And sure, you can maybe put that onto, well, Kamala's a newer Inhuman, so there's no reason for her to think about that. But why would she think she can go in big and as big as she did it in the final part of the game? Spoiler, by the way, but I mean, by now, I feel like most of the player base has actually beaten the game. That's at least gotten it on release. If you haven't, my bad. But it's kind of hard to say that you wouldn't have. I mean, I guess you could make the argument that someone said like there's not a lot of people that's actually beaten the story on Steam and like on PlayStation. But I'm sitting there thinking like there's probably been a lot of people that couldn't complete the game. First off, and we can go on that idea. But second off, it's like I feel like a lot of people actually have beat the game. And it's just, and I'll put it like this, whenever that was probably taken, I think that was like a week or two ago. And so I'm pretty certain that everybody by now that hasn't been glitched out is probably able to get past that point, or has resetted their story, or has at least looked up the videos on what's going on in the story. Like one of these things is probably already have happened. So, you know, but so let's talk about like current characters, right? So although Black Widow is my main, I've been trying to work on my other characters so I can get them all at least. I say I want to get them to all the 150, but I probably really will not. Most of what I'm doing right now is that I'm just trying to get my characters, all of them, to have a build I'm willing to grow. And so if they leave the cap at 150, right, for like at least a few months, I would like to have a build going for all of them, and so I could just run through that build. Now, my only other problem is if they leave the cap to like 150 for a couple of months, right? There's not really going to be much to strive for. Let's just talk about this for a second. So my biggest gripe right now is that gear. Starting off, let's back up a little bit. So anything below purple is not worth having. Exotics are hard to come by. Yeah, they're better now because they got buffed and stuff in 1.31, right? But they're still not something you're gonna get off all the time. Like I was supposed to get one during the Mega Hive, and I still haven't got anything yet. But even then, like that's random chance, so I'm not really that worried about it. But anything that is purple and above is worth having, and I say that because I've noticed that the colors don't really matter. I mean, anything above purple, anything purple and above, right? The colors don't really matter. Like the stars are really what matter. That's your stats and stuff, your perks. But purples are able to get more perks than any legendary can have, and any exotic can have. And like what number one thing I found is that a lot of times you just want some name gear, or you want a name gear piece that will allow you to like make a build off of it. Number one thing I'm building on my Black Widow. So I've got like 2 pieces of infiltrator gear. I'm testing something out called Hyena's grips or whatever, which gives me like I always get a guaranteed critical on back attacks. So I'm trying some of that out, and that's like a purple gear, right? But originally I was running some infiltrator gloves, which just helped me out whenever I was in stealth. So my build right now is my Black Widow is to be in stealth as much as possible, and to put out as many takedowns and critical hits and status as possible. That's really all I'm thinking about the whole time, right? Now, my only issue with Black Widow, and I think they're gonna fix this eventually, is that whenever I'm in like team play, and what I mean by team play is like more than one person. Not more than one person. More than just my companion AI are in there, right? So like other players, right, are in the game. My takedowns knock me out of my stealth, and they knock me out of my power surge. And they're probably gonna fix that soon. I know everyone's talked about it by now. Shoot, I know I've seen some in the earlier days about it. But my issue is that I shouldn't be losing my stealth. My build's built around stealth, so I'm gonna have to change my whole build whenever playing team play until they fix that. Which means I can't do takedowns often. I've also noticed like sometimes you might do it too fast. Maybe you like, it's weird. It's a weird way to describe it, but it's like sometimes you can do a takedown too fast and you just won't get it, or you will get it, but just knock you out of your stealth. Which, by the way, while we're talking about takedowns, right? Hulk, right? So one of the things I noticed is that if something is in between Hulk and whatever he's trying to take down, he can sometimes freeze. And that started happening in 1.31. That wasn't happening in 1.30. I've noticed when I've been playing Captain America, sometimes I might deal with, it doesn't happen too often, honestly, but it would be a glitch where you're trying to run up a wall or vertically, but like you can't because like whatever reason you just get stuck there. I've had that happen to me once. I've had it happen to me where what I said earlier about Hulk just going into his just trying to do a takedown and just get stuck and he has to get hit just so he can get out of it. I've had issues where Stranglehold will pop immediately, but I won't even see the animation, and I'll have to aim to get out of that, or at least get knocked really hard out of the area. So I've ran into that before, right? Like I know what that is. I know how it procs now. And Stranglehold, for anyone that's wondering how I ended up doing that. So what happened really, right, is that I pop my Stranglehold and charge it. And by charging it, it means I'm waiting to let it go at the right time. It does not mean it charges up in power. I don't have any proof on that at all because I don't test that kind of thing right there. But what I can say is that you can hold it and aim it. And so what I would do is I would hold and aim if I think that target I'm about to attack is about to do some kind of wind-up attack or whatever, and I'm ready for it, right? Sometimes, right, it will do it immediately. Like if it knows you're holding it, it will do it immediately, and therefore it'll slam. And you really won't know the slam's there unless you have the gas on the Stranglehold. But I've had it happen there before, and I've had it happen before where I've had it happen where at the end of my Stranglehold, the guy already did the slam, I was good, everything happened, and for whatever reason I just get stuck. But I mean, it doesn't happen too often, but that's something that's happened before, right? So, right, I guess I should brought that back. Well, we're still talking about it in a way. Like, I'm probably gonna remember more instances as we go, but yeah, some of the bugs there. And I had kind of talked about my character, right? I am thinking about working on Thor. I've gotten every character. I never really thought I'd work on Kamala. Well, let me rephrase that. I didn't think I'd work on Kamala as fast as I did. But one of the things I had realized, right, is that Kamala actually comes in clutch. Most people won't say that, right? Because Kamala just isn't their character. But one of the number one things I realized about Kamala, right, is that even if she's just AI, like, she's got a big healing radius. Now, it's not something you notice at first, but when I was playing her, trying to figure out understand how she works, I realized that, you want to pop your heal, right? But it's just when you get low. You don't want to pop it all the time, sure, but you want to pop it here and there to just keep yourself alive, because your assault ability is kind of trash, but really all it is just a get off me tool. So you'll have to come up with that. Yeah, come up with ideas with that. Her embiggen seems to be your main, really, your attack tool, though. You're not really going to be using your high five for anything other than just a get off me tool. Like, it pushes anything too, but your ultimate's really your main damage, your main tanking ability, your best way for you to keep alive. Sure, Polymer is that, but really Polymer is just about, like, you want to either go for the whirlwind or you want to go for the slam. The slam in itself is almost like a takedown whenever you're embiggened, but like it does a lot of damage. I'll certainly give it that. But I find the whirlwind spin attack is actually the best move she's got, and I say that off of the idea that it does so much stun damage. Like, it's ridiculous how good it actually is. But it's not here nor there. I found I actually do enjoy Kamala, especially because she's got a lot of wide arcing attacks that hit multiple enemies all the time. I do notice when those dodging robots, like you can kind of tell when they know they're dealing with certain characters because like they'll dodge more on certain ones. But overall, I feel like Kamala's a jack of all trades kind of a character, but she's also a healer. I guess you can maybe make that argument for Cap, but I make the same argument that Cap is not really a tank. He can be, but he's not as much of a tank as what Hulk is. Like Hulk is a pure tank. He's more of a he's an off tank, but he's not like the off tank you think of on Overwatch, right? Like he doesn't fit those roles. But I think honestly though, I know like I said before, I still say that Hulk is the best tank in the game. I think you could build Cap to be a tank, but I wouldn't do it. Me personally, I think Cap seems to be the kind of guy where I'd focus mostly on Brooklyn's Brawler, which by the way, I'll keep my honest opinions on this. I don't like characters that I feel like they need to focus on their ultimate to do any real damage or to be successful. And I say that off of the idea that Steamroller puts you in a bad situation where you might need it. You need to parry, right? And you can't parry in general unless your shield's on you. So you may do a Steamroller, right? And your shield's just out going around hitting bad guys. Maybe it gets a couple kills here and there, but on average, you're not going to have it. If you don't have Brooklyn's Brawler on, right, it's not going to come back to you immediately. But you know what happens, though? If you're running without Brooklyn's Brawler, Cap's got the worst melee animations for that. Not really in the melee animations look bad. It's more like they take too long. It's not even like Kamala's it takes too long, because Kamala's animations still have a wide arcing kind of ranged-ish attack for melee, right? Kamala at least has that. Cap is a single target being who, for whatever reason, when you're not in Brooklyn's Brawler, it feels like trash. And you could see it clear as day. Like I'm not saying people can't do well in that form. I'm saying that I don't see any reason not to be in that form, like at all. You should always be in Brooklyn's Brawler. Like that's just something I always see with any Cap I see online. Just in general, Kamala's not really the same way. I feel like Kamala you can run in a couple different ways. Tips I'll give out on her. We're still talking about character drive, by the way. But tips I'd give out on her, though. Don't focus too much on healing your teammates unless they're low. I say that on... She's got a... Alright, let's go over what she is, though. Her healing range is about, like... Let's say... It's not as big as Bone Shaker's initial attack, right? It's not as big as Bone Shaker's initial attack. But I would say... her healing range is a little bit more than the Thunderclap from Hulk. It's a little bit more. And how you'll know how big that is use Thunderclap with the Toxic Cloud. I think it's called Ground Zero. Use that, and you'll see how big the range is. I think that her healing spirit is just as big as Thunderclap. And so you may think, well, that's not really big. It's actually a lot bigger than you think. And I'm probably like underestimating how big it actually is, because it can reach pretty far. But don't use your healing only when your teammates are low. That's dumb. And I'll tell you why that's dumb. I was trying that out before with one of my buddies called Intricate. And one of the number one things I noticed was that I was going down a lot more. Sure, I was kind of new on the character, but one of the things I realized was that I actually pop my moves normally. It's just a part of my fighting style, where if I think I'm about to get tagged by a bunch of stuff, I'll just pop a move to tank that attack and then go in for the kill or whatever, right? And so I noticed that I wasn't doing that, and I was trying to wait for people to get low. Well, on average, at least the players I normally play with, right, I don't have that issue where I'm worried about them getting low often. And so it wasn't really that big of a deal. Versus when I'm playing with like randoms, right, like, and I say randoms as in blueberries, whatever, I find myself in situations where I might see a guy down, but this guy's down all the way across the map. Like, I don't know if I'm going to make that. But, you know, I run into those issues only really with randoms more than my actual people. But even them, actual people, like, sometimes they have bad moments. Like, they just have bad runs. It is what it is. But, like her healing spirit, it's kind of like you want to really use it for yourself. And I say that in the idea that you're going to use your healing spirit because you're actually going to be going out in the battle and doing most of the damage, or you're kind of trying to tank in a way. You're not really a tank, right? But you're, in a sense, you're kind of like, what's the best way to describe it? Think of being, we'll go back to Overwatch again. Think of Roadhog, right? Roadhog is the kind of tank where he heals. He drinks some kind of like energy drink, right? And he gets like a heal. Roadhog is basically that, right? That's kind of how Kamala is, except Kamala isn't really tanking until she goes into her embiggen. Now, necessarily, right? You can still tank using polymer, which like it gives her like healing over time. So I'll certainly give her that. But it's not the same as Hulk's. It's just sort of the same as Hulk's. Like, she can just do it, but she can't get hit in the meantime. And so that's really the tip on that. But she's like, she can tank. And your main job really with her is to do some tanking while also not outshining Hulk. You're just going to be doing some tanking and dealing some damage while trying to like really just help your Hulk or help out your team in general. But if you're like the only person on there, like there's no Captain America and there's no like Hulk, right? Like you might be doing the tanking yourself, which isn't hard really. It's just that the way she's set up, she's not going to be a main tank, but she can be. If she has to be, she can be, and I'll certainly give her that. I won't really go into gear as I haven't found the best gear on her. But what I find that works really well is the Ring of Nibbling. Originally, I was going to go with Darkhold, and I'm going to tell you why I was going to go with Darkhold. Darkhold has the ability where it either A, drains your life and puts you in a critical state so you can get your heroics back, or it's going to drain your heroics and give you some health back. Here's the reason why I was willing to use that, though. So, when it puts me in critical, I can pop a health healing spirit to save myself while also getting my ultimate and my assault back. What it dawned on me though is that I can't use Darkhold often. Although 5 minutes doesn't look too big at first, you start to realize how much actually happens in 5 minutes. Let's think about like a hive, right? Like a hive usually is 6 floors, depending on if you're playing a normal or not. And one of the number one things I realized was that, especially if you're doing good clears, 5 minutes actually takes a long time. I might get through 3 floors in a hive, right, before I actually get my Darkhold to pop again. And then, it shouldn't take that long of a cooldown, right? It shouldn't be like 5 minutes, right? Because it doesn't have any passives whatsoever. It's not like Ring of Nibbling, it's not like Dark Lethal Norn, it's not even like that defensive Norn Stone that you get at level 50 faction rep. Like, or Tactagon, right? It's not like any of them, where they at least have passives that make it worth having the 5 minutes. But it has 5 minutes, and so it's really not worth it for that. Yeah, it sounds cool at first, it's certainly a clutch item, and don't get me wrong, I understand the idea. Oh, well, you want to use this as a clutch. You don't want to use this like you can spam. You want to clutch with this. But my thing is, clutching only works in raids, first off. Like, you're not going to really do it in a mode where pretty much your AI can revive you at any moment, or like your team can revive you as much as like they need to without having to worry about you dying, like, you know, gray mode dying. Like, they don't really have to worry about that. And so I think that Darkhold just needs to go, or it needs a cooldown change. I'm thinking, honestly, depending on which one you use, the explosion you get on Darkhold level 3 is garbage. It does some decent damage, but it's still trash, let's be completely honest. Anything like Tactagon is still better than that, just because exploit status is it still helps out. It's like the other one just does raw damage, and it's just like raw damage isn't that great at the end of the day compared to status damage. So really I don't like that too much. But yeah, I think honestly just doing something about them in general, the major artifacts would probably help out. But I use like Ring of Nibbling on her, Sometimes I might use the lethal Norn. I'm thinking about just getting the defensive Norn and trying it out on her. But most likely I'll probably end up just using the Ring of Nibbling on her. I got it on a couple of characters. Like, I got it on Hulk and her. I thought about putting it on Cap, but I don't think I need it on Cap because of Brooklyn Brawler. And I haven't really worked on Thor to really give a really good answer on that. So let's get off that. Gear sets, right? So Infiltrator gear I have on my Black Widow. Originally I was gonna go with what was it called? It's not World Breaker. Wait, it might be World Breaker. No. There's one where it gives you like a bunch of health for whenever you're in rage, and you also get the initial cost of rage that goes down. I was doing that on him. I was trying to focus mostly on getting any benefits for Bone Shaker, so critical attack and all that. But what it dawned on me is that a lot of Hulk's named gear is trash, and I say that on the basis of, for one, parrying is not always possible at harder levels. So like at Brutal, you might get a guy that just pops red attacks all the time, and you can't just parry those. You gotta dodge them. So they're not really. I'm not gonna be able to benefit off anything that says parry. I'm not gonna be able to benefit off of normal rock damage and like with your synapses. I think it's like World Breaker synapses. I'm not gonna be able to benefit off that. And I say that based off the idea that normal rock damage. I mean, if I have small debris on with a element, right? That's one thing. But if I don't have small debris with the element, I'm probably not going to use it, unless I'm trying to take out a turn or something. I'm usually going to use my large debris because there's a lot you can do even if the large debris doesn't have anything on it. So there's that. So I can't really use that one because I don't really use rocks often to just do. I don't have a rock build basically. I'm not using it for ranged. When it comes to how grabbing enemies gives you perks, right? Like more status damage, more like crit damage and all that. I have a problem with that, and I say that based off this idea. If I'm going to use something to basically, I want to beat enemies to get more status damage on my other enemies, or I want to use enemies to get more critical attacks and all that, right? One of the biggest issues I've always found whenever I'm playing the game is that sometimes you're going to end up in areas where you killed all the guys, but you still got this one big bad guy who can take a lot of damage, and you won't have anyone to hit him with. So how would a build that's focused on grabbing enemies and slamming them against other enemies, how would that work? Because you got to consider something here. If I can't attack you with an enemy, then half of my build's gone. And so I keep thinking about that, and I'm like, all right, you know what? I can't even do that. There's no point in doing that. So I'm thinking about just going down the route of getting shield payload and pin particle payload. And I say that because those are guaranteed things. Pin particles is always going to be good, unless something's changed about it and pin particle payload isn't like just you apply pin particles, right? Unless something's changed, pin particle payload is probably still going to be one of the best choices I can make for that. At least for Hulk. Like I said before, Hulk's gear is not that great. Like, a lot of it's just going to funnel you into a certain area, and then some of it's not even really worth it until they change how parrying works. So there's that. Captain America, I don't really have a build on him. It's more like I'm trying to just get anything that has nothing to do with Brooklyn's Brawler, but I may have to grab it in some instances. But I did see something where a bunch of people getting stuff on, like, which is Rally Cry. So I may end up just trying to farm for stuff like that. I already talked about Thor. I haven't really messed with him. But I'm still kind of evolving my Black Widow, though. But yeah. So we're off that. Let's get on to like characters now. So 2 characters that I would like to see. Number 1, I did a video a while back on Deadpool. You guys check that out if you want to. I think he would be a good addition. Strictly, I would like them to add him whenever they put in Spider-Man. And I say that because Deadpool has the ability to have his own multiverse. It's just something he does. And so, if Deadpool can get a multiverse, it would be fine. Well, I'll put it like this. It would be fine to have them at both at the same time, because some of what Deadpool can do, some of what Spider-Man can do, Deadpool can do. Like, he sometimes run into Spider-Man's kind of events. Like, he still has some of his events. And so I think it would work out well. That, and I like Deadpool in general. Like, whenever I was playing Marvel Heroes Omega, I found myself playing Spider-Man, Deadpool, She-Hulk, and Moon Knight. She-Hulk is pretty much confirmed at this point. I'll get onto a little bit on that later. And Moon Knight, I don't think he's confirmed, but I've noticed there's a rising number of fans, mainstream fans anyway, that are into Moon Knight, and I was like, sure, I was really a fan whenever I seen him on Marvel Heroes Omega. Yeah, I'm not really sure why, but whenever I looked at his comics, I thought he was kind of interesting. Let's get on to part 2. So, last thing we were talking about was like gear sets. Really still character grind, but gear sets. I did talk about characters I'd like. Well, I talked about one of the characters. So Deadpool can hit like, most of what Spider-Man does. Not 100%. Deadpool still got his own stuff, but Deadpool would be a good time to put. It'd be a good time to put Deadpool in at the same time as Spider-Man. Man, we'll go on to that a little bit later. But so let's go on to my second character I'd like to see. I would like to see Agent Venom. Here's the thing, right? Although Eddie Brock is the original Venom, and I totally get that. Here's the thing. I've always seen Eddie Brock, Venom, really, as a character that I feel like he should have been just Spider-Man's villain. He's his complete opposite. This is what Spider-Man could have became had he kept going down the wrong road. And yeah, I mean, you want your characters to evolve and you want them to grow, but at the same time, I was always like, this is what, when you think of like Spider-Man's ultimate villain, like someone that's like his complete opposite, it kind of just shows like, and I'll make a callback to one of the comics I got into, Sonic comics. If you guys have ever seen Archie Sonic, right? Sonic versus Scourge. Scourge is like pretty much just the evil twin of him. And sure, you don't want Venom's not necessarily a evil clone of Spider-Man or anything. You could kind of say that because of the black suit, but Venom's not really an evil clone of Spider-Man, right? But he's always seemed like the other side of what Spider-Man could have become. He's always seemed like that. Now, you could maybe say like that's what Superior Spider-Man is, but I would say that Superior Spider-Man's more of a more aggressive Peter Parker. I think, like, if anything, he's not as far down the road as like Assassin Spider-Man from the Spider-Verse, but he's a lot more lethal than Amazing Spider-Man. So I don't really count him on the same line, as I also think that unless something's changed and he went back to his evil ways, I still think he's still a good guy. But going back to Venom, I've never really thought Venom as a hero. Like, it's not like he couldn't be. It's just that he's always seemed to me that he is always going to be a villain. Like, his whole design and all that, Eddie being jealous of him and all that, everything just seems to fall in line with him being his opposite, his complete other opposite. And so there's that. But Agent Venom, I've always kind of liked it. Really, the bully turned hero did sound pretty fun, pretty good. I mean, Flash can't always be a bully at the end of the day, right? Like, he's got to grow up at some point. And I thought Flash becoming, he did actually turn his life around and all that. Like, he went in the army, his legs got knocked out, but at the end of the day, he came out of that with the Venom symbiote. Yeah, I think that's what we're gonna call it. I think that's what it's called. He came out with it, and he eventually became Agent Venom, right? And I thought it was kind of cool. Like, he's kind of like a mix of Punisher and like Black Suit Spider-Man. Well, he's a mix of Punisher and Venom, I guess, but that's what he reminds me of. And I thought he was pretty cool. Like his stories kind of, they're not really Spider-Verse-y or anything, but his stories kind of give you like a more of a grip on, like, it's kind of like the Guardians of the Galaxy without actually having to be a Guardian of the Galaxy. I got that kind of feel from him, and so I thought he was just like I thought it was kind of cool, you know. I kind of like his stories pretty much. Yeah, he deals sometimes in just mostly dealing with Venom. He dealt with Mephisto and all of that, but I kind of liked his character, so I would love to see Agent Venom. Maybe we get to see like a regular Eddie Brock Venom as just regular Venom, maybe a clone or whatever. I would love to see that. I don't really necessarily know I'd want to ever see him as a hero. It's not that he can't, like I said before, it's not that he can't. It's just that he seems to be doing a better job as a villain to me than a hero. Even though I've seen heroic feats from Eddie Brock and he's got a lot of really good stories, I still feel like he's a better villain to me. But that's what it is. I do like the idea of like, where did I hear it from? I did hear it on the Ultimate Alliance 3. Like he's like Eddie. He's the type of guy that he'll when it counts, right? He'll fight with Spider-Man to do something. And that's certainly true. I think all villains, though, at the end of the day, when it really counts, when the world's at danger, is going to, unless the villain itself is causing the problem. Like most of Spider-Man's villains seem to be that they're willing to work with him to get the job done. They're trying to, like, save the world and all that. At some point, like, you just start to realize, like, Spider-Man's villains, like, there's some semblance of sanity or some semblance of like good in all of them. So, like, I don't think Carnage would ever do it, but I wouldn't put it past him. If, like, if Venom's willing to do it, I wouldn't put it past him. But I don't think Carnage is ever going to do something like that. He seems to be the type to cause the world-ending stuff. You know what I'm saying? But it's not here nor there. So those are my two characters. I would like to see a Venom Deadpool suit, but not necessarily him having the powers. It's really the look. So just going back to my earlier talking about Deadpool, but those really are the two characters I would like to see. There are other characters, but I think I talked about some of them in like let's say episode 1. I might have said it in episode 2, but mostly episode 1. So let's go past that a little bit. So the campaign, this is where we're going to be kind of getting into spoiler territory. It's a spoiler anyway at the end of the day, but I think most of the people finished the game, so here's your warning now. So at the end, we see MODOK's been defeated, right? And he's kind of like, he's in a daze. I think he's stuck in the, it's like a Kree Sentinel, is what I'm going to call it. Or Kree-Sentinel, or whatever. But it's like a Sentinel pretty much, but it's for the Kree. And it shoots some kind of green beam into the sky. And I think MODOK escapes during this time. For one, we're gonna see probably MODOK again. He might take over AIM. He might take over. He might make Hydra or whatever. Maybe they want to introduce the Red Skull or something with MODOK as at the helm at the time. Something like that. Maybe we'll see something like that, right? But I feel like the ending for the Kree and all that, I would love to see what happens with that. I do think Captain Marvel is going to come in a lot sooner than we initially anticipated. Besides the fact that we know her stuff's all around Kamala's room, right? We still see it. We still see it on her chest and all that. It's there. But besides all that, right? Whenever you do a little thing like that, it can be something that's a longer term story. But I think we're gonna see that a lot earlier because it's pretty much just a lead off from that. I don't have any reason to believe that's got anything to do with Monica whatsoever. It's not that it can't. We could easily see it in Clint Barton's story, the original Hawkeye. We might see it in his story, right? But I have no reason to believe that, specifically because it's got to deal with the Kree, and unless we get like Carol Danvers like early, like unless that happens, I can't see that happening. And so there's that. So MODOK's on all that. By the way, if you get 100% on there, another spoiler, you get to see Kamala's initiation into the Avengers. She's always she really was one already, but you get 100%, you get that. I've heard it bugged out for a couple people, but I've actually gotten to see that. Like I heard, matter of fact, I heard the audio. Actually, I didn't actually get to see the video, but I heard the audio of that once, so I know what it is, and I looked it up, and I know what it is now. So there's that. But that's pretty much it for the end of the story. I did think I've been looking over like the trailers for like Kate Bishop and stuff, and I really do want to know what's gonna happen with Monica. She's doing something now with I don't think it's time travel. It looks like dimension hopping. There's that. But overall, I think we're gonna be dealing with Monica for a while as Scientist Supreme, which sounds like really dumb as a name, but we're probably gonna be dealing with her for quite a long time. I don't think it'll end for quite some time. Or she'll always be a villain that we always see, along with the other villains always appearing. I don't think we'll take out Monica anytime soon. If we do, it'll end up being a clone or something. But yeah. Getting on to Kate Bishop and really DLC characters. So I rewatched it a couple times just to see what what's going on with her character and all that. So I've got a couple speculations. So I'm thinking it's really about her and Clint Barton. So with her, I'm thinking she might be the type of archer that does long range shots. She's got single precision shots, but I think both her and Clint Barton are going to do the same kind of thing. So I'm wondering how her support ability is going to be. I'm wondering her assaults and all that, because if her assault is just I hope her assault's not just she does a strong shot or whatever. I hope it's more than that. Maybe it's just a bunch of arrows that does a pitch dent that electrocutes or whatever. But what I'm really wondering is just like what her main fighting style is. Now they said she's a fencer, and she's not acrobatic. She's what's the word I'm looking for? I think they said she's a ballerina. No, that's Natasha. I have to look that up. I might look that up while we're talking. But she's supposed to be a fencer, and she's got some kind of it's not really acrobatic, but in a sense it's acrobatic. She's got an acrobatic style to her, right? And how will I put it? I don't really see her fighting. Oh, all right. Here's another problem, right? So I don't really see how she's going to be much different from Clint Barton. If you consider what she is to what he is, there's probably some differences, but for the most part, they're probably going to be the same. And so I really want to know how Crystal Dynamics is going to do the differences between characters. I call them variations for people like Kate Bishop and Clint Barton. It's going to be kind of the same with She-Hulk, but I feel like She-Hulk has there's more differences between the two, and I say that based off the idea that especially in Marvel Heroes Omega, She-Hulk was more about, she had the more hand-to-hand combat, wrestling type moves, the kind of, she kind of had some kung fu and stuff in there too. She was just she was always more, she had a better non-sluggish fighting style, right? And so it kind of there was a difference there. It kind of reminded me of Luke Cage a bit. So she's kind of got that boxer kind of wrestler feel to her. Her abilities are more off slams and stuff. I don't think she'll have her rage or anything, but I feel like there's more reason for me to believe that there's going to be a difference between her and Hulk than it's going to be between Clint Barton and Kate Bishop. That being said, if they're gonna go the route of he's a Ronin type character like he was in the MCU I think it's Endgame when he's Ronin in there, if they're gonna allow him to be that and he still gets to use his bow, that would be kind of cool. But just going off that alone, like, how are they gonna do that? Because no matter what, I still see them to be the same type of character. I don't really think there's going to be much change. Sure, I'd like to be a lot of change, and I think they're going to do a good job on it. It's just that, what kind of archer are they both going to be? Is one going to be the more precision, while the other one's just more about the fast attacks or fast shots? Or are they both going to have the ability to do the same thing? Like, how are they planning on doing that? Let's see. Anything about her style yet? Anything about her style? I don't see anything on that. Yeah. So, yeah. Get off that. I forgot what they said, and I mean to putting in like a description somewhere. Her style and all that, or you can just look up Kate Bishop yourself. Like, what kind of fighter is she compared to like Clint Barton, right? But I'm honestly, I really hope they do a really good job and show a difference, because how they do Kate Bishop versus Clint Barton is going to tell us exactly how any other variation comes out. I don't really. So let's we're going to go back to Kate Bishop. Let's get on to like the leaks, right? They're discussing that they're going to be doing Black Panther. We already knew they were going to be doing Black Panther, right? But they were kind of showing us that Black Panther is going to be leaked. There's already lines about him in the game. There's lines about She-Hulk, Spider-Man. Well, Kamala's really talking to Spider-Man, but there's signs that Nick Fury is going to be in the game. All that, right? Like, from just voice signs alone. Apparently recently one of the UI designers had a bunch of like logos and stuff for the different characters, and some of them were alpha builds according to some, but I think they're going to be changing the game's look soon. It's not that it's bad though. I can't really say the game looks bad. It could be better, sure, but you know, it's not too bad. But we may end up seeing some of that. But what I've seen from the leaks, though, is there's going to be a lot of variation characters. And I'm really worried about that, because it's just like, I don't necessarily want War Machine in the game. We've got Iron Man. Iron Man's going to pretty much be the laser beam war focus of version of War Machine. And War Machine's just going to be more about rockets and guns and stuff. And my only issue with that is, it's not that I have a problem with War Machine. It just feels like if we're going to make War Machine, I'd rather have War Machine as a skin and then have War Machine's abilities added to Iron Man. Sure, it's not necessarily his style, but necessarily it wouldn't surprise me if he would have added War Machine's style onto his suit. It's not that odd for Tony to do something like that. Sure, he's more about the finesse. But when it comes to what he is now, it wouldn't surprise me if he'd done something like that. It really does not. How do I put it? War Machine's one of those type of characters. Unless they do him well, I hope they don't. Like, it's like, unless they do him well, right? I feel like he's gonna be almost a carbon copy of what Iron Man is, and I hope they really don't make. I hope that doesn't happen. It's just that I can't see much of a difference between him and Iron Man. Like I said, She-Hulk, there's kind of a bigger difference between the two. Like, this fighting style is pretty obvious. Even their personality style. Like, I guess I can't really say that, but like, unless she goes into Savage She-Hulk, which I think would be a great ultimate for her. Unless they go into Savage She-Hulk, like, she's not gonna be really. She's going to be a lot more different than Hulk, just based off of, like, if you look at her in the animations, if you look at her from the game, she's going to be a lot more different. Versus, you know, two Archers or two kind of Iron Mans. Like, there's it's like, how do I put it? Like, there's two of them are really similar in a lot of ways. Well, four of them, really. but two of them are really similar in a lot of ways. Some things are going to be a tad bit different, but roughly he mentored her, so it's not like she shouldn't be remotely like him in any way. Going past them, Iron Man and War Machine, right? It's just bullets for a bit instead of lasers for the most part. Now War Machine's got that military tactics. It's got that military training, right? That's certainly true. But I still feel strongly that it's not going to be too much of a difference. Now, like I said before, how they decide to do it will tell us a lot, strictly just from the Kate Bishop to Clint Barton. That's certainly true, but I don't see there being much difference. So there's that. And then there's, if they end up deciding to doing, man, and I don't know how I feel about if they put Miles Morales in the game. And I say that based off the idea, I would rather just have Spider-Man have a suit that sounded like Miles Morales, right? And make it so that his his electricity and all that could just be changed out. You could change out whatever assault skill or whatever he has at the time and put on Miles' skills. I would rather have that, because technically, because they're both called Spider-Man, right? It's not like Hawkeye being a more of a gender-neutral term for Kate Bishop and Clint Barton, because you can be a Hawkeye as a male and a female. Spider-Man is literally one guy, but technically two, because the one other guy adopted that name. And this other guy's got electricity powers and stealth. But I feel like I would rather see Miles Morales' if they ever put him in the game and make him a variation, I would rather see him as a suit that just has like special words and stuff, like special voice lines, because it's a suit of this person. It's the same as if they do Spider-Gwen. I would rather see a Spider-Gwen suit than to see a Spider-Gwen variation. Not that it probably won't happen, it's just that, like I said before, when you consider, like, there's a difference between even those two and having Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and Spider-Gwen. But like I said, I'd rather that be a suit. Going off of that, past that though. So I know you guys seen the PS5 showcase. Once again, PS4 user. I know this is Avengers TBR, and it's about the Marvel Avengers game, but PS5 will it kind of goes to a Marvel Avengers, as well as I think I read somewhere we're going to get a free upgrade to the game. But so far, a lot of the games look really good. I know I saw a lot of the Crash content coming up. What was it? Like, they showed I saw Tana before the actual showcase, but hearing her gameplay, but where was that during it? I might have caught it at the end of the showcase, so I think I was working that morning. But Crash still looks good. I think I still will get that game on release. I don't really think there's reason to pre-order the game. Sure, I could play the demo right now, or I could be getting the costumes, but at the end of the day, it's a Crash game, and I probably will just play it for like a little bit and then quit, so you know how it is. I've seen God of War, and God of War looked pretty good, you know. Well, I say it looks pretty good, but we're pretty much getting a part 2 to that last story, and the last story was really, really good, so I don't have any complaints. I'll be completely honest. What was there? There was that assassin game, and where he's like in a time loop, and I don't really know how I feel about that. It's like it's kind of strange. It's like, it seems to me if the guy gets hit once, he dies. And so he's got to remember everything he's got to do in each area so that he can kill every single one of them, while also dealing with this other assassin, which I think another player can play, trying to kill him in the process of him having to also deal with all these other AI. And I think, like, it sounds like a really interesting concept. It's just that the execution has to be good, because it feels like she like literally she's only worried about him unless she gets shot at herself. Like she's only worried about him, and so it's feel like it's gonna be really, really overpowered, like her side anyway. But like I said, I don't really know how I feel too much on that. The Spider-Man PS5, the one with Miles Morales, I did think it was kind of weird they're doing him like so early, considering how the last one it was the kind of cliffhanger that really wasn't a cliffhanger, but it felt like the story is supposed to continue past that point. And so I kind of hope we'll get to see more of what's going on with Peter, because he's supposed to be working with Silver Sable. But at the same time, I feel like we're going to end up getting a Spider-Man 2 one day, where it's got to deal with Peter Parker again. So we'll see when that happens. It's just that I really, really want to see more of what's going to happen in that story, because there's got to be a reason for the last part of where like he helps out Silver Sable take out Hammerhead in his upgraded suit. I think their weapons and stuff are getting sold, and he's going to help her go find them. And I feel like there's a lot more that's going on behind the scenes that we don't really know about, that I would have loved to have seen. Can't say I remember too much from that. I'm trying to see if I can find something on that so I can re-jog my memories on what was there that day. But Call of Duty Cold War, I played the alpha of that. Honestly, it feels like a regular COD game. I can't really say much more than that. So, I mean, if you played any COD game, you played them all. I don't really feel like there's much difference. I don't really see. I hear the game's polarizing on like the history and stuff of the game. But I mean, honestly, the Cold War did happen, so you can look that up yourself. Demon Souls remake, I never really played the first one, but I hear it's not even a niche following either. It's just, I hear there's a really big following on Demon Souls, so I hope that's going to be good. I've never been interested in Oddworld, so I can't really say much on Oddworld Soulstorm. Same with Five Nights at Freddy. I've never really been a big fan of that either. Like, it's not that those games are bad, it's just that it's never really interested me ever. And so, yeah, I guess I never really could get into it. Let's see. The Harry Potter, it says Hogwarts Legacy. I feel like it's supposed to be an MMO, right? I feel like that's probably it's probably gonna be really good if you're a Harry Potter fan. But like, that's assuming you are, right? If you're not, it may not be fun at all. And then I'm wondering, how is gameplay gonna work? And what is the gameplay like, right? You know, but we'll see when that happens. I haven't played Resident Evil often enough to even give an honest opinion about that. I did talk about Deathloop, and I don't play Devil May Cry. Yeah, so that's pretty much it on that. Wasn't much more different than that, but those are the games I was looking at. Those are the games that were on the showcase, and that was really my opinion on that. There was a game called Pathless, and I think I've seen it on the PS4 showcase before the most recent one. And Pathless looks like the type of game. So a little bit more about me is I like movement shooters. So think of like Titanfall or Uncharted 4, and they're not necessarily the same kind of shooter, right? Like when you think of what a movement shooter is, but I like third person, and I also like speed. I'm the type of guy that my name's Ninja, right? So, you know, I like stealth, but I also I like to be fast, I like to be stealthy, and I like to feel a rush, per se. And I think Pathless will be that kind of game where it feels like it's an indie game, but it feels like one of those indie games that has a lot of love and care and probably won't have many bugs in it. And it's a solo game as far as I can tell as well, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think they did a really, really good job on that. At least the trailer, anyway. I did kind of talk about the leaks earlier, so I'm not going to really rehash that, but basically they kind of showed all the characters, they kind of showed the UI, how you can actually customize Jarvis and the way he looks. They kind of showed some costumes we haven't seen before, like Maestro Hulk, and kind of different Captain America and a new Iron Man suit, but like, right, like it wasn't really much like difference between saying like how many characters in the game and like what the UI may end up changing someday down the road. It may be sooner than we think, or that could literally have just been an alpha build. Like I said, I talked about it before, but yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Anyway, guys, this was the first episode. I kind of did solo. I don't really have a problem with it, but I think I talked too much, or I talked too much in one in our circle, right? So there's that. But yeah, thanks for hanging out and listening to this podcast. I may end up doing this more often, just because my buddy Bruce, he, like I said, I wasn't able to get him, but I think like he's either getting a little more busy, but he's also his enjoyment of the game looks like it's waning, and so I don't want to just constantly push him on it to get on a game that he may not want to play right now. Like I get it, you know, sometimes things like this happen, you know, but yeah, so thanks for hanging out. Remember, if you want to see more videos like this, remember to check us out on Anchor, any podcast that's linked to Anchor, and I will end up posting this on YouTube soon. I'll try to get it on there today. It may be tomorrow. You know, things may happen, right? But I will make sure to get this on as soon as possible on YouTube. At 7NINJA7 on YouTube. I stream on Twitch. I'm trying to get right back into that, but things have just been happening. I haven't been able to do it as much as I want to. But like I said before, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.